Hello and welcome back to the channel. I cannot sleep because I am tossing and turning thinking about a new card coming out in Dustborn that I believe is going to get banned potentially in multiple formats. Thinking about all the broken uses for this card, and it is pretty upsetting. And um, this card, I think, is going to be a massive cause of frustration for many people playing Magic across many formats. So let's jump right into the card, which is Leyline of Resonance, a 4-mana Leyline. So if it's in your opening hand, you begin the game with it onto the battlefield. And it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So a lot of people are realizing this card is quite powerful, but I think they don't quite realize just how broken this thing is and what it's going to do to multiple formats and how it can slot into multiple decks in Standard, Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, to just completely destroy your opponent without the game even beginning and create a massive amount of card advantage for you, um, and just run away with the game, and why this is not a good thing and how it will create a lot of unfun games and board states. So let's jump into Standard, and a lot of people are, I know, talking about this one. There is turn 2 Standard kills. There already is a turn 2 Standard kill, but this adding this card to the deck makes it way more consistent to turn 2 kill in Standard because of a few cards. We've got the Cacophony Scamp, which is a 1-mana 1/1, and when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target, and then when you hit a player with it, you can sacrifice it. So essentially, you can do double damage with the damage it does, and then the sacrifice effect. And the Heartfire Hero, which is similar, a 1-mana 1/1 with Valiant. When it becomes a target, the first time you put a +1/+1 counter, and then when it dies, deals damage equal to its power. So really, what this Leyline allows you to do with cards like Monstrous Rage and this new turn Inside Out is double up those effects so that you can turn your Cacophony Scamp into uh, 10 plus power on turn 2. So turn 1 Scamp, turn 2 play a turn Inside Out, and then a Monstrous Rage. So each one is going to give, the Monstrous Rage is essentially +5 power, and the turn Inside Out is essentially 6 power. So it would have 12 power with trample, and then you could attack and hit your opponent for 24 damage. If they had a blocker, then you could even trample over their blocker and kill them that way on turn 2. So the Heartfire Hero also similarly, if you are able to get it up to 7 power, so a Monstrous Rage um, copied, or yeah, a Monstrous Rage or Turn Inside Out copied would be able to get it, I believe, up to 7 power because it puts a +1/+1 counter on it. So +5 or +6 would give it up to 7 power, attack for 7, and then use Callous Sellsword, the Burn Together side, to fling the Heartfire Hero for 7 and 7 more for 21 damage on turn 2. So a lot of possibilities, and this deck is just good even if you don't have Leyline in your opening hand. So that is kind of the key, I think, because people are saying, "Oh, this is Magical Christmas Land," and yeah, it is kind of. You're not. This isn't going to happen every game. Way less than 40% chance that it's going to be essentially in your opening hand, but less chance that this you'll actually have these other cards. However, this deck is just fine on its own. We already know this deck is quite good and can kill on turn 3 pretty consistently. But you just have this card for just the turn 2. Like, there's no really drawback to running this card in your deck besides the upside of getting to kill your opponent on turn 2. So this is going to make Standard Best of 1 extremely unfun, and maybe other tournaments. And yeah, people are just, I'm going to be dying against this, trying to pull off some janky combo like I do on my channel. And my opponent is going to go turn 1 Scamp, Leyline, and I'm going to cry. And that's going to be the end of my attempt at janky combos. So, yeah, not looking forward to that. And I'm sure many people are maybe looking forward to doing it to your opponent until maybe it gets kind of boring. I don't know. So, Standard, pretty broken. Okay, let's talk about Pioneer, and of course, all these other formats that we're going to go over. You can do, what you are doing in Standard in Pioneer, of course, with some upgrades. If you wanted to just go for massive aggression, trying to kill on turn 2, you can certainly do that in Pioneer. Pioneer also has massive card advantage potential with Leyline of Resonance. There already is sort of like a heroic Boros, like target your own creatures um, deck that is pretty decent, that puts up some tournament results. However, this card slotted in there uh, really turbocharges that deck to an extreme. And the other kind of aspect of this is like, the cards that you're casting, they don't just have to pump and do tons of damage. That is certainly one way of using it. But having Defiant Strike or Ancestral Anger, which both draw a card whenever you target it, doubling those up is like making those cards into like Ancestral Recall. Not to mention if you have like multiple of these ley lines in your opening hand. I didn't mention that with a Standard example, but if you have multiple ley lines in your opening hand, it just becomes even easier to kind of do these things. So the fact that the card doesn't care about having multiples, doesn't punish you for having multiples or anything like that, and actually takes advantage of having multiples, is just another reason why it's so broken. So in Pioneer, we have Defiant Strike and Ancestral Anger, which draws cards, and then Illuminator Virtuoso, which is a 2-mana 1/1 double strike, and it says whenever it becomes a target of a spell you control, it connives. So notice it doesn't have to be a non-copy or anything like that. So the copy that you create with Leyline is going to trigger the connive again. So you could go Illuminator Virtuoso on 2, and then Ancestral Anger, draw 2, right? And then connive twice, and then maybe play another Ancestral Anger. If you put another Ancestral Anger into the graveyard and just kind of go crazy with Ancestral Angers or Defiant Strikes here on Illuminator Virtuoso. This really, because people would say, okay, maybe having a Leyline is like card disadvantage, right? Because it doesn't really do anything, doesn't count as a card. However, even if you go like a turn 1 Swift Spear, and you on turn 2 you target it with Ancestral Anger, you're already getting your card back from the Leyline, and any subsequent, or you're getting more than your card back because you're getting a boost as well. But any subsequent one is just more gravy, and they just kind of fuel into each other, and you just start kind of going off, basically uh, burying your opponent in card advantage in an aggressive deck on turn 2, which is insane and really, really good. So that seems really broken in Pioneer. I actually think maybe this is the best use for the Leyline, probably Standard or Pioneer, but uh, just because these strategies are already quite good and it slots so easily into them. And you really there's no reason really not to. I mean, the only kind of disadvantage of it is that if it's not in your opening hand and you draw it later in the game, then it's kind of a dead card. It does still trigger prowess if you play it, and you can still play it in red decks and then kind of go off from there. So there is that downside of the Leyline, but the upside is so high that it's definitely worth playing in this type of deck for sure. And the game is going to end, probably on turn 3, 4. It's probably, you're not trying to make the game go long for more chances to draw the Leyline if it's not in your opener. So, and then again with the Virtuoso, you can kind of just connive it away as well if you draw draw ley lines later in the game. So it seems really, really, really good in this deck in Pioneer. All right, let's move to Modern, which now has potential for turn 1 kills. I mean, there's probably other turn 1 kills in Modern that are available, but this seems potentially quite good in a Prowess deck, or maybe a Venerated Rot Priest deck, which the combo deck, which didn't really take off in Modern, but there has been Prowess decks that have been quite good in Modern. And this, again, supercharges those decks and gives the potential for turn 1 kills, because there's 0 mana cost spells that you can copy and double. Mutagenic Growth and Gut Shot being the 2 that I'm aware of. Maybe there's some other ones that I'm not aware of in Modern, but those are the 2 that I thought about. And the potential for turn 1 kills with Swift Spear and Mutagenic Growth, or Rot Priest and Mutagenic Growth and Gut Shot targeting it. So if you're not aware, Rot Priest, this is a 1 mana 1/2 with Toxic 1, and it says whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. So again, it doesn't matter that you're copying the spell. It's just any time that a creature becomes the target of a spell, you get a poison counter. So you can kind of see how this is pretty strong with the Leyline. Um, so let's go over a few examples of how you could potentially kill on turn 1 in Modern with this. These are, I will admit, magical Christmas lands requiring multiple ley lines in your opening hand. However, if you're not killing on turn 1, there's certainly many, 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 many ways of killing on turn 2 with Leyline. But just to kind of go over the extreme examples of turn 1 kills that are possible. So with the Rot Priest, you have to kind of be on the draw, so you need an 8th card here. But if you had 2 ley lines, and then, I mean, there's some redundancy with Rot Priest for a turn 1 kill here with Summoner's Pact, because you can just use that on turn 1 to find the Rot Priest. So Forest, Rot Priest, 2 ley lines, and then each gut shot that you target with it, and you can respond to your gut shots so that they don't all resolve to kill your Rot Priest. So you could just gut shot, hold priority, gut shot, hold priority, gut shot, hold priority, Mutagenic Growth, and each one of those is doing 3 poison to your opponent because you have 2 ley lines in play, and so there's 3 spells targeting the Rot Priest. So even if they had a removal spell, if you were on the draw and you played the Rot Priest, they had a removal spell ready. It doesn't matter. I mean, the removal spell would just give them another poison. So um, there's nothing they could really do besides countering your Rot Priest with 1 mana, basically. So, which is possible in Modern to do, but um, basically the only way to stop this would be a counter spell. On the Rot Priest, removal spells wouldn't work, so that would be pretty sweet. Which the other example with Swift Spear, or really any 1 mana red haster, uh, would kind of lose to a removal spell. So that would certainly be kind of an all-in strategy, but the Rot Priest is less so, that you can just kind of just respond to it, and then the triggers will kill your opponent. So because you have to actually attack with a Swift Spear, but if you're on the play, again, the Swift Spear requires a little less, 1 less card to get a turn 1 kill. If you had 2 ley lines here, by the way, you can kind of switch out if you had 3 ley lines in your opening hand. This would work too, and 1 less Mutagenic Growth or 1 less Gut Shot in the example above. That would be workable. So the I believe the 2 ley lines here in your opener, Mountain, Swift Spear, and then each Mutagenic Growth is essentially +7 damage because it is copied twice, and so each one is like 6 plus the prowess on Swift Spear for casting it. So that would be a total of 22 damage if I'm doing my math correct on turn 1. So again, these are magical Christmas lands. This is really not going to happen in every game. There's, I don't even know, maybe 1% chance this is what your opening hand looks like. Maybe even less. However, still having 1 in 100 games where you just win on turn 1, it's pretty unfair. And the other games, um, winning on turn 2. So Swift Spear could be replaced again by any 1 mana haste creature, and Venerated Rot Priest could be replaced with Summoner's Pact here in this example to give a little bit more redundancy, and then the Mutagenic Growths and Gut Shots can kind of be any combinations of those would work with the Rot Priest as well. All right, so lastly, we've got Legacy, and I don't know if this is going to see playing Legacy. It might not be good. There's just like too much broken stuff you're already doing in Legacy, but this is certainly an easier turn 1 kill in Legacy, where you just go land, Swift Spear, Leyline, Blazing Shoal, exile a Reaper King, or anything that has that's red that costs 10 mana or more. So Blazing Shoal, if you're not familiar with that, you can remove a red card with converted mana cost X in your hand from the game rather than pay its cost, and the creature gets +X +0. So 0 mana for +10 power, essentially. So turn 1, Mountain, Swift Spear, Blazing Shoal, and then if with trigger prowess, so that would actually be 22 damage on turn 1, which is pretty good. I mean, the other thing to kind of note about Legacy, like Force of Will, is a very played card. You'd have to Force of Will the Swiftspear to kind of completely stop this, because if you Force of Will the Blazing Shoal, you're actually going to get another copy of it. So you'd still attack for 12 on turn 1, even if they had a Force of Will. So that would be at least something. Not It doesn't completely fizzle your combo unless they are Force of Willing the Swiftspear or whatever the 1 mana red creature you're casting is. So yeah, and there's certainly other kind of combinations in Legacy. Obviously, you can kind of use gut shots and mutagenic growth as well in that deck, or whatever you want to do that. But um, yeah, so why is this card so good? Why is it so broken? Like, why do I think this card is potentially going to see some bans in some formats? Well, first of all, 0 mana Leylines, by nature, kind of are quite broken. We saw that multicolored Leyline do quite a bit of damage when it came out. In Modern with Scion, that was a pretty good combo. So anything that costs 0 mana is potentially quite broken. But this card, it gives you kind of the 2 big resources in Magic that everyone is kind of going after, and it does it both in 1 card and for 0 mana. So it gives you mana advantage because it itself costs 0 mana, and it's creating copies of spells for free. That if it had said you have to pay an additional mana to create the copy, or pay 2 mana to create the copy, that would be something. But however, if you're paying 1 mana for a spell and you're getting a free copy of it, you're getting a free mana for that, right? And so if I hadn't even talked about, like, if you're playing a 2 mana pump spell, you're getting 2 additional mana for free by having this card in play. And you also can get card advantage of it. So outside of the sort of cantrips, the spells that draw a card every time you cast them, which is huge card advantage for this. Imagine if you have 2 of these and then you cast an Ancestral Anger, and now you're just like Ancestral Recall Anger, basically, with this. So that is huge card advantage. However, even if you don't have those, past the first card, if you're casting 2 pump spells, you're creating 2 cards for free with 1 card. So that is card advantage in and of itself, and mana advantage, all in 1 card for 0 mana. Okay, it's also quite luck based. Again, this isn't going to happen every game. However, when it does happen, you're going to say, "Oh, your opponent got so lucky," and they did, because that Leylines in and of themselves are kind of a luck based card. You can mulligan to these. There's ways to manipulate your mulligans in Modern and older formats, with Serum Powder and things like that. So you could kind of add that to the list of ways to kind of break this card. But in Standard and Pioneer, the games when your opponent has this in their opening hand versus they don't have it may be completely different, and it may be like worth mulliganing to this, just to have it in your opening hand, or just maybe it's not. And so the ley lines are so kind of polarizing, in that when they're in their opening hand, they're incredibly good, and when they're not, they're quite bad. So that is not the most fun for talking about just fun, that the game kind of ends on turn 1 or turn 2 because of something lucky the opponent did. Might as well just, like, flip a coin. But people like the high variance stuff as well. I mean, I enjoy it. Of course, I play Magic, so, but this may be taking it against to a bit more of an extreme than is healthy for the game. And it leads to turn 1 and turn 2 kills, especially in Standard. Getting a turn 2 kill consistently is quite frustrating, I'm sure, for players, especially new players. So all those reasons, and probably more, and different combinations of cards that I'm probably even missing, are the reasons why I think this card is going to get a ban, potentially in some amount of formats. Standard, Pioneer, I think less likely in Modern or Legacy, but just because there's already so many kind of broken things you could do in those formats. But it seems extremely powerful. Let me know in the comments below what you think about it. Am I overreacting to it? Do you think this is going to get banned? What other kind of broken things can you do with it? Just quite an interesting card that they printed. I'm very surprised this went to print as it is, and yeah, I think it's a mistake. So we'll see what happens. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening to my rant today about this new ley line, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.